Hello again, I am Blunty, and today I'm feeling like a smug arsehole because 1 month ago I said this. Bleszinski's so-called passion projects that he felt so free to go after now that he has his own studio are pure, unadulterated copycat garbage, just desperately aping whatever is currently popular and trendy. There is no other explanation for this game being rushed out into early access after only a couple of months worth of development. Bleszinski is not creative. Bleszinski is a follower, and not an especially smart one. Radical Heights will suffer the same pathetic and embarrassing quick death that Lawbreakers did, and with luck that will be the final end of Boss Key Productions' short-lived existence, and Bleszinski can then retire into the obscurity he needs and perhaps deserves in order for his own overblown sense of self-importance to fade away. Maybe then he can remember what actual creativity smells like. Spoiler alert, it doesn't smell like Radical Heights or Lawbreakers. And today I woke to the news that Cliffy B has thrown in the towel, shutting down his short-lived failure machine of a games studio, Boss Key Productions. The miserable and entirely predictable failure of his last-minute scramble to jump on the coattails of Fortnite with his rushed, broken and cheetah-flooded game Radical Heights, which itself came on the back of the similarly predictable failure of his uninspired and bland Overwatch wannabe hero arena shooter, has happened far faster than even I predicted. A month is all it took for Cliff Bleszinski to finally realize that he's an overrated hack, and that copycatting and trend chasing won't save his short-lived attempt to show the world he can be successful without the oversight of a large publisher surrounded by people with actual skill and foresight and talent. And with the open admission that Radical Heights was a scrambled last-ditch effort, and that it was too little too late, he says, something that anyone with half a neuron to throw a spark into their empty skull already knew, Cliffy B himself finally comes to the realization that despite his name being so well attached to the success of the original Gears of War games and such, perhaps he isn't the rockstar games maker he imagined himself to be when he bought his own press, because the publisher PR drones and games media leaned so heavily into this rockstar image because having a hero to point towards works better in marketing than a faceless corporate blob. And better yet, my prediction, and indeed hope, that this bewilderingly and finally obvious to all overrated blowhard would finally just walk away from the game industry has also come true. He's taking some quote-unquote time off to quote-unquote reflect. Hopefully that gives him the perspective on his professional life I pointed out he so badly needed. That said, after my original criticism of Cliffy B and Radical Heights, I did in fact play the game, and there might have been hope if it wasn't so rushed and was released when it was in better shape for public consumption, instead of being rushed out the door to try and glom on to the growing popularity of Fortnite. I certainly felt there were some fun bones underneath the rushed shell. But even when the Fortnite servers were down, and even when Ninja, the current flavor du jour of the gaming personalities, himself played it, and it held first place for a number of viewers on Twitch for a day, mainly because of Ninja, it could not attract or vitally hold on to enough players to be anything close to worthwhile. And it only makes it more satisfying to be a dick about all this, because Cliffy B himself is such a douche. Like here, where he mocked people who pointed out very correctly, as it's now inescapably obvious for even Cliffy, that Lawbreakers had failed. So here I am, Cliffy, with my I told you so. And I'm just a fucking nobody arsehole YouTube wanker. And if I could see the writing on the wall, why couldn't you? Idiot. Now, to be honest with you guys, I kinda wish I had the willpower today to not record, edit, and then post this video. It is filled with negativity. Not a single joke, no real insight or anything, just me being a prick and screaming I told you so to some dude who's just trying to do his thing. And in fact, as a YouTuber, I get that. I can relate every friggin' day. Every day, there's a new arsehole throwing shade at me, trying to piss on my shoes, trying to insult me, to tear at me, to rip me down, to belittle me. And it's pretty easy to do. Here on the internet, where there's next to no personal consequences for this kind of behaviour, you don't have to take responsibility for it, to make any kind of legitimate connection to how you're making another human being feel. It's sociopathic, really. Zero empathy, zero understanding of someone else's feelings, someone else's emotions. And I feel shitty for just having done it. See, I've been doing this YouTube thing for well over a decade now, and every single day over those 13 years, I've had a constant, unstopping stream of people being shitty to me for doing nothing more than doing what I enjoy doing. They could just walk away. They could just say nothing, but they chose to be nasty, to be mean, to use up time from their own finite existence for the sole purpose of trying to make someone else's day shittier. And quite frankly, making a habit out of exhausting your limited minutes of life trying to take joy away from someone else is so entirely toxic, I don't get how these people look at themselves. And BAM! Just like that, I twist this all back on itself, and instead of yet another asshole YouTuber screaming like a self-righteous know-it-all about some bullshit video game crap, here I am, using my own shitty, pathetic, unworthy urge to be a cunt to a famous stranger to frame up a clumsy point that perhaps we should all be a bit less shitty to each other. All it takes is a moment of self-awareness, of empathy, before you post something. Write it out if you have to. Get it in front of your own eyes, just so it's out of your system. I often do that. But then have a moment of thought before you hit post, and then just delete it and walk away. This is a habit I've been trying to form over the last few years. I'm getting better at it, and I will admit it's not always easy in the heat of reactionary emotion, and I'm not always successful in stopping myself from hitting post when I probably shouldn't have. But I am, at the very least, trying to be less shitty to strangers online. And perhaps Yoda would be disappointed in me, but I believe there is worth in the try, so long as the do keeps happening more frequently. So do you guys. Thanks for watching. I am Blunty, and I'll catch you next time. To Cliffy B, I'm sorry I used being a dick to you as an excuse to try and prove a point. I know you're probably getting a lot of I told you so's right now. Not entirely undeserved, of course, but, maybe people could be nicer about pointing out how you just failed, as miserable as you probably already feel. Or perhaps they should just hold their tongues and walk away. In a perfect world.